Well, Canadian businesses aren't the only ones calling foul on the U.S. president for reimposing tariffs. For more on that issue, we've reached a senior vice president with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, Neil Harrington. He's in Washington. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Catherine.
Now, you call this move by the U.S. president a step in the wrong direction. Talk to me about what you think the impact is going to be of these tariffs being reimposed.
Absolutely. We do. We see these as holistically unjustified and potentially quite damaging, not just to the bilateral relationship, but to the U.S. economy writ large. And it's a critical reason why the vast majority of the U.S. aluminum industry that depends on imports from Canada opposes this measure. Instead of targeting the real problem, as we see it, which is state-subsidized overcapacity in the Chinese aluminum industry, this targets a longtime stalwart U.S. ally, NORAD partner, a NATO partner, on whom the U.S. Depends holistically for its defense and security in North America.
So I want to ask you, we love it when you say nice stuff about us, of course, up here in Canada. But so what's your read about why this is happening? Why are we finding ourselves on the receiving end here in Canada as compared to the other countries you're mentioning?
I think there's obviously the quantities that we're talking about in terms of aluminum imports in Canada's roughly 60% concentration in the import market. Canada's status as the largest importer of the largest source of imported aluminum to the U.S. But I think more broadly there are some fairly narrow political interests. As I say, it's a minority of the aluminum industry that has exerted some action in this case to exhort the administration to react.
So to what extent do you think Canada is going to be able to push back then? You talk about political interests. We keep talking about the fact that this is obviously the lead up to the U.S. election. Are we kind of stuck with this until at least the election passes, do you think?
I would hope not, Catherine. I'll tell you why. I think if this is an election strategy here by the administration in the U.S., the logic escapes me in the sense that you have two key demographics that depend on aluminum imports from Canada that are important to this election. One is manufacturers and producers of aluminum who account for 90% of the industry's jobs that are located in key states, key battleground states in our election. So you're talking about major jobs in states like Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin that could be dislocated because of this action. The second thing that we need to be concerned about here in the U.S. is Canadian retaliation. Canada has been very effective in 2018 of targeting retaliation in a very politically painful fashion. And I think the reason that that occurred in our midterm elections in 2018, and you've seen some very senior members of the Republican Party, all allies of the president, come out against these tariffs today, I think precisely for that reason and that concern.
You say very effective last time, the campaign, and it will look different this time because now there's a new agreement with the U.S. that requires us only to essentially target goods, similar goods. So no more ketchup, mustard, and Kentucky bourbon like we saw last time. It's going to be golf clubs, potentially washing machines, beer cans, which I'm sure many people will be unhappy to hear about. But you say very effective. It took a year. So is even a very effective campaign is going to take quite some time? Is that what we should take from that?
I think you saw. This is a critical election, I think, and in the U.S., as you know, and I think there are many elements of the Republican Party that understand the toll that, as you say, tariffs on Kentucky bourbon, tariffs on Florida oranges, tariffs on Hershey's chocolate from Pennsylvania took during the midterm elections the last time. So I do think that there are a lot of pragmatists in the party that don't want to go down that road again.
There was a question to Canada's Deputy Prime Minister today about what this says about the state of the Canada-U.S. relationship. I mean, it has been a major priority for this government, all the work that was done around NAFTA, and yet we find ourselves here again. What do you think it says?
I think it's clearly it's a setback. There's absolutely no doubt about it. And it's a setback because we're 5 weeks removed from one of our greatest bilateral, trilateral accomplishments in the entry into force of CUSMA, the Canada-U.S. Mexico Free Trade Agreement.
You even put Canada first. That's a nice touch.
Well, it's a critical trade agreement for all three of our countries, and I think what CUSMA did is reestablish certainty for us as a North American economy after 3 very tumultuous years, as I think we can agree. So we can get back to that point of certainty again. And as I said, there are many pragmatists that want to see that happen, and I believe are dedicated to making that happen. So I do look at this as a transitory moment, as it were, and we will get past it as our partnership is simply too important for us not to overcome.
Very quickly, do you think it's realistic, though, that it could get worse first? The Premier of Ontario today raised the possibility of steel tariffs. The Deputy Prime Minister seemed to suggest that, I'm not quoting her exactly here, but essentially that wasn't really on the radar right now. What do you expect?
We're concerned. Catherine, it's something that obviously when you even reintroduce tariffs after we thought we'd put them behind us, it's a concern. And I think that the real issue here is the steel tariffs. If steel tariffs were enacted, their dollar value is significantly more than those of aluminum. I think that you would see damage to both of our economies at the very moment we can least afford it, given the fact we're confronting pandemic recovery together and the greatest economic crisis we've jointly faced since the Great Depression.
Yeah, well, we're certainly going to have to watch and see how all of this proceeds. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us about it today.
Thanks so much for having me, Catherine.
That's Neil Harrington, the Senior Vice President of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, speaking to us from Washington.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.